All right, vetters, I have an absolutely insane video today. Jesse Michaels from American Alchemy just released a video that purportedly tells the story of a brand new UFO whistleblower who has never come forward before. Well, not exactly. We'll get into that a little bit later. You see, this is going to be a two-part series that I'm doing. So today's video will be part one, and in a few days, I'll release part two with a deeper dive. So in today's video, just going to give you a general idea of this gentleman's story and a few other details to kind of help us understand what exactly is happening. Because you see, this gentleman, who is a former Green Beret, has come out saying that basically he was taken to a secret military base, right, and shown, things that are not of this earth, basically, right? And I don't know, everybody's talking about it. So look, let Jesse Michaels from American Alchemy explain a little bit better.
Our technology is well ahead of what people know. Because where I was, right place, right time, I saw some of that.
You occasionally still work at Area 51, right?
We call it the test site or the test range. Area 51 is just one component of that entire huge sprawling compound. During that time, a green orb type object had flown over, and that was where the weird shit started. We moved on down another hallway, and it had a marking on the wall and said off-world technology.
That's insane.
Metallic, basketball-sized sphere. Looked like it was just levitating above the podium. It looked unnatural. I'm looking at it, and it almost looked like a mirage type of effect. And above that display screen were these hieroglyphic symbols that I started to see appear. This is encoded in something deeper.
Way deeper. Welcome to maybe the most mind-blowing interview we've ever done at American Alchemy. It's with a Green Beret named Randy Anderson. Randy is an American badass. He's a complete physical specimen, having completed the notorious SEER and Q Special Forces qualification courses, both of which have very high failure rates. He's also an 18 Bravo Special Forces weapons sergeant who knows how to operate just about every gun under the sun. He wouldn't let me bring this up in our interview because of how much he cares about maintaining a humble, quiet Green Beret attitude, but there's a lot more I can say about Randy's battlefield accomplishments. Out of respect for him, I will leave that a mystery for you to speculate on. But why are we talking about Randy now? And why has he agreed to go on record? Well, for the purposes of this episode and our channel, which covers the nature of reality, in March of 2014, Randy was taken to a secret underground facility called the Off-World Technology Division at Naval Surface Warfare Center, Crane. What he saw there changed his view of American technological capabilities and his worldview and understanding of humanity and its place in the universe forever. And now it might change your understanding of all of these things as well.
All right, so again, we are going to do a deeper dive on part two, but here's another clip from the episode, which again, the link is in the description. Kind of giving you one particular part of Randy's story. There's much more to it, so I recommend going and watching it. It's a great watch. So, and again, stay with me after this clip because I have even more clips that I found of Randy that haven't been shared.
We moved on down another hallway and got into an area that had a marking on the wall and said off-world technology.
It said off-world technology.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So immediately my bells go off.
Was it engraved? Or was it?
No, it was.
Did it look like it was written in marker or something?
No,
or
it was, but it wasn't like it was like permanent. It was like somebody like stuck a placard in, kind of.
Okay.
So I don't know. It could have been a setup. It could have been something just thrown together.
Sure.
But it could have been something that's just how they had.
But it said off-world technology.
Yeah, that obviously immediately started to feel what the fuck is going on, right? Yeah. So me and the guy are looking at each other. The other guy that's there, he's another Green Beret. We're like, what the fuck? Kind of giving each other that look. And, yeah, that was where the weird shit started. So yeah, we go into the room, and the one room, these significantly higher level of technology. Like the lighting even looked, everything was just, it was more, everything was, it was just a different vibe, man. I don't know how else to describe it. Like I said, the lighting was different. The walls had like maybe, I would assume, some type of Faraday material. Like everything was just a higher level of detail.
Yeah.
The first object was a metallic basketball-sized sphere, and it was above a podium, and looked like it was just levitating above the podium.
Levitating above the podium. Mm-hmm. So there was space between the sphere and the podium itself.
Correct. And I remember at one point, like, trying to angle myself, like, what? How is that?
Do you think it could have been some sort of magnetic levitation? Okay.
Maybe, yeah.
But it's just levitating there.
It was just levitating
Did
above
it look like a prosaic, like this wood table where if you were to, touch it, it would act like a normal object? Did it look holographic? What did it look like?
That's a good question. Then what stood out to me was the way the metal looked. It looked unnatural. And I talked with Gerb about this, and he kind of dug in on this. I'm like, dude, I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah.
All I can tell you is it didn't look natural. It didn't look like anything I could compare it to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So look, it almost looked like Offworld.
It fit the bill.
Yeah.
And then also there was and this could have been anxiety or anything else, but the energy in the room, man, was just different.
What was the feeling you got looking at this thing?
Just an uneasy, uncomfortable, ominous. That's the best way I can describe it.
Did it feel powerful or conscious, or did it feel like this inanimate object? Or
it didn't feel inanimate. It didn't feel conscious. It just felt like this was significant, and it could have been the way that they brought us in. It could have been all the buildup. It could have been that.
Do you have any extra context at this point? Did the instructors at any point, are they in the room with you, by the way?
They are acting like this is a normal Tuesday. And that's what fucked me up even more. Like that was oddly very strange, man. Like this, I hadn't been exposed to anything like this before that or since. So,
and they didn't say, hey, so what you're about to experience is kind of trippy. They just took you into this room.
They just, and maybe that was part of the point. It could have absolutely just been something that triggered on a evaluation for me and this guy. And they brought us out there to see if we'd react to the technology. That could have been a part of it.
Do you ask them at any point?
Well, so after a moment, have a moment to like kind of drink that in, and then they were talking about, and they were kind of talking to us and each other. It felt just weird, man. Almost like they were purposely making it awkward.
Yeah,
I would say, but maybe it's just because I was in a weird situation.
Do you know anything about these instructors as far as like, do they have physics background or military background?
Most of them have military background. A lot of them come out of the same type of special operations that we were in, or at least some of them. But they are civilian contracted companies that are working for, for Crane.
Now, this is an interesting story, right, when you first hear it. Holy cow, what's going on? Off-world technologies, and they just put a sign up on the door. Hey, just so you know, we got alien stuff here. But look, we'll get into a few questions that I have about this story. And I'm not the only one, as you'll see as we go into this. But first, I want to play a few clips of Randy from other interviews that have nothing to do with aliens or UFOs at all, that I was able to find online. And here's the first one.
For 20 years, My Vegas magazine has been dedicated to showcasing community events, networking mixers, local expos, charities, and so much more. Owner and publisher Mark Schaefer joins us this morning to talk about what's going on today and introduce us to another local guest, Randy Anderson, owner of Bravo One Defense. Good morning, guys.
Good morning to you.
Morning.
Yay.
Good morning.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your background, how it kind of led you, and then, what is Bravo One Defense?
Yeah, great. So I was a firefighter for the city of Las Vegas for nearly 20 years. I just retired last year.
Wow.
I was also a Green Beret for 10 years with the Army Special Forces. So between those two jobs, I kind of have an understanding of what it takes to defend yourself. That's one of the main things with I've seen the dangers in the city, interacted with dangers overseas. So basically, Bravo One Defense was, I saw a need with as the climate and the current community changes and it's more and more dangerous. I see more and more crime increase, and I thought it'd be good to help my community in a different way now that I'm retired from both of those careers. And so Bravo One Defense is basically a company that's here to help empower people to take their self-defense in their own hands, because the fact is you might have to be your own first responder. And that's basically what we're focused on, empowering people to take in their self-defense in their own hands.
Yeah, and so, you know, obviously self-defense kind of alleviates that helplessness feeling, right?
Sure.
And so talk to us about some of the services that you do, some of the trainings you do, and what you're showing people, you know, what to do in those moments.
Yeah, so we do basic fundamentals of weapons safety. So if you have a pistol or a rifle, we could teach you how to properly use and store and maintain that weapon system. Also for home defense, if you want to understand how to better defend your home, or if there's a crisis. If there's a crisis, and just like we had during COVID, where, you know, there was people were stuck in their houses and didn't have enough resources, and going out was a danger for some people. So just how to better prepare for those kind of crises. So we do home defense planning, we do self-defense planning, and actually do practical exercises to teach people how to better be prepared.
Before we go, we've got a giveaway to do.
We do, but I got one more question for Randy.
Okay.
Bravo One.
Yes.
How'd you come up with that name?
So on a Special Forces ODA, that's the team, when you're a Green Beret, you're on a team of 12 people, and one of the jobs is a Bravo. The Bravo is the weapons expert and the tactical expert on the team. So Bravo One means you're the senior Bravo. So Bravo One Defense references.
So you're it. You're
Yes.
Bravo.
But Mark,
I'm
we got to
Bravo
do this
One.
before.
So the reason I showed that clip is because I think it just gives, you know, just seeing Randy in a different setting and seeing how he's reacting, right? And what it's about has, again, nothing to do with UFOs, just goes on the local news to talk about, honestly, kind of a cool thing that he does, right? To be fair. Now, I found another interview, really the only other one that I found that's more of a podcast, right? Sort of. There'll be more about that in part 2, for sure, but you'll see what I mean. Anyway, I shouldn't have even said that. Here's another clip where he went on to talk about sort of his fire fighting experience, as well as some other issues he may have had in the past, but, you know, took care of. And I find that admirable, to be honest with you. But again, just kind of gives you a little bit more about his background. So here's that clip. Again, all the links to all the videos I'm showing are in the description. So go check out the full videos. Here we go.
Yeah, Randy Anderson, 20 year. I got hired in 2004, I think it was. So almost 20-year veteran in the fire service. I was an explorer for 4 years prior to that. I grew up in the fire service. About 5 years into my career, I was, being an explorer for so long, I kind of had an idea of what firefighting was. I knew what the job was, and then I was at a busy station. I was at Station 1 for a long time. I got to do the job. I got to go on fires all the time. I got to experience what it was to be a real fireman. Then I got kind of stagnant after about 5 years, and I wanted to challenge myself again. I kind of recognized that I wasn't really motivated the way I had been when I was an explorer and a rookie. And so I decided to follow a dream of mine that nobody really knew I had, but it was something that I always had inside me. Was I wanted to either be a Navy SEAL or a Green Beret. Like that was just something I thought would be the coolest thing to do. And I started looking into it and finding out how I could make it work, and found out I could actually do it and keep my job on the fire department. So I pursued it, made it. Took about 4 years to get through all the training, became a Green Beret. And yeah, I did both. For 8 years, I stayed as a Special Forces soldier in the Army, and then would come back from deployments or training and pick up firefighting and go back and forth. So it was tough, challenging to do both, but I loved every minute of it. And I got to kind of pursue two different dreams, which not a lot of people get the opportunity to do. So I was grateful to be able to do that.
Sure.
Now, I think that adds a lot of context for people to try to understand a little bit more about Randy. And look, a lot of people have a lot of questions about this, and maybe there are a few red flags about his story, right? Which honestly, I will dive into most of those red flags in part 2. But here's a few that I thought were kind of interesting just right off the top. And, let's look at a tweet from Chris Ramsey, who runs the Area 52 channel. He put out a tweet, and I thought, you know what? Let's just start there, right? So let me read his tweet, and then we'll kind of go from there, because he also had some questions. In regards to Randy Anderson's story, I fully believe he is describing what he witnessed and that he is being truthful. However, that does not mean that what he saw was necessarily what it really was. A few things stick out to me. He was essentially given no reason for why he was being shown these things. 2, he said that the off-world technology signs was one of those that could be replaced. 3, none of the items that he was shown were exhibiting any type of technology that we could not replicate. To me, this reeks of some strange type of psyop or test that they were putting him through. I do believe that if we had off-world technology, we would probably be smart enough not to label it so. Now, the question is, why did they show this to him? And see, I agree with a lot of those questions from Chris Ramsey, and I would go even further to say, how did Randy Anderson, come out, right? You know what I mean? That's what I'm going to dive into, the origin of how he even came to the public, knowledge, because it actually starts way before Jesse Michaels. And I've got a lot more information that I'm going to share in part 2 about that, because once you start to draw some of these connections, it draws even more red flags. Now, granted, I'm going to be open-minded and patient till all the information comes out. And all I'm going to do in part 2 is just kind of point out some different questions that we may have about this. Now, with that said, I invite Randy to come on Vetted and do an interview with me, right? If he wants to. I have no idea how to get a hold of him, but if he's going to watch this, please, I invite you to come on Vetted and let's talk. I have questions that I think a lot of people have. So look, let's kind of dive into another part real quick before we end off here, right? Which is tonight, okay? Tonight only, Tuesday, January 14th, there is going to be a Twitter space held by a former Air Force veteran and a former Green Beret who are going to be talking potentially with other veterans about this and kind of talking. So I think it's important to get both sides of the story here, right? Other people, what do they think of his story, right? Because as you can see, this is the gentleman that is going to be putting on the space, right, with someone else who I'll talk about here in a second, right? He goes by Green Beret Nap Time, and he says, Join myself in Aerotech Space tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern on X as we discuss this podcast video by Jesse Michaels of his interview of former Green Beret Randy Anderson concerning UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. Right here, you can see the link from the average Chris, who goes by, his handle is Aerotech Space, right? And it just says discussing Green Beret UFO whistleblower with Green Beret Nap Time. Now, all veterans welcome and encouraged, right? It's just going to be a nice, open, respectful conversation. I've been to Chris's spaces, and they are very respectful with other veterans, for sure. And as you can see, the average Chris here is a former veteran, right? And more on him in a second. And then you can also see that this Green Beret Nap Time, he is a former Green Beret. In fact, an 18 Series Army Green Beret. And, well, what does that mean? Well, 18 series are special forces, as you can see here. So just to confirm that, right? So this space is going to be held with, veterans talking about another veteran, which they have every right to do, in my opinion. So I think it's important to get all sides and discuss this openly and respectfully from people who have knowledge about this world, right? And this environment, right? Because you see, the average Chris, he is known as a former Air Force veteran online and has done spaces, and people know of him in there, and he kind of has a divisive reputation in there, as to be honest, as I do myself. But the truth is, I actually sat down with the average Chris recently in an interview that I'll be releasing very soon, within the next few days, and there's more about him that he has never spoken about before. And on my podcast, he revealed some stuff about himself that I think adds a lot more credibility to who he is. So here's an upcoming clip, or a clip from an upcoming interview that I did with the average Chris.
Yeah, so I served in the United States Air Force from 2003 to 2007. I did a job that, really wasn't much to write about. I basically worked for Loadmasters. So it was did that for 4 years. The upside to that job is I got to travel around the world quite a bit, touch foot in probably 7 or 8 different countries in that time, which I'm very fortunate. A guy from a small town in Tennessee, just never thought I'd be doing some of those things. And then I got out and did some things here and there, and then like we previously talked about, I kind of, it's been building up, so I'm just going to come out and state what I do currently in a broad sense. But I am an intel analyst for a branch of the Department of Defense. I'm not going to go into specifics, mainly because of what I do, and I just don't want, there's just certain things that need to stay off radar. But I do work in the intel community, and I also hold a clearance. So I'll leave it at that.
All right, so Chris isn't just some yahoo, y'all, okay? He's a former Air Force veteran who served his country, as well as now working for the DoD as an intel analyst holding a clearance. And, well, we seem to give people like that a lot of leeway and respect their voice in this community. So I hope Chris gets the same respect, right? Now, again, this space I think is going to be really cool, and I'll probably cover parts of it in part 2. But again, I have so much more to cover in part 2 of, talking about Randy and this particular story, because again, once you start to pull the threads, there's just some interesting things there that I think should be known if we're going to accept his story, right? Because you always want to know the origin, right? Why did he come out? Who brought him out, more importantly, right? And who's behind helping him get his story out? Once you find out some of those things, just saying. So anyway, hope you enjoyed part 1. All the links in the description. Look forward to part 2 in the next few days. And my interview with the average Chris that's coming out very soon as well. Look forward to that. And again, links in the description. Go check everything out for yourself. We'll see you guys on tomorrow's video. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep.